All right, welcome to session 8 of the data science program. We are making a lot of progress so far. This is week 4. So basically, we've been meeting for 8 consecutive or 4 consecutive weeks, and we've had 8 classes so far. This one will be making it the 8th class. So we're making a lot of progress, and for you that have stuck with us up to now, you've actually shown dedication and commitment. So, and I believe you are getting to see the effect of your consistency. So let's go straight to today's class. Today we'll be continuing from where we stopped in yesterday's class. So yesterday we started with NumPy, where I introduced us to what NumPy is, and showed us how we can create arrays and the different methods in NumPy that can be used to create arrays. So today we'll continue from there, and we're going to quickly look at how we can access elements in arrays and how we can slice arrays, right? So after that, we'll then move on to look at the basic operations we can perform in NumPy. We will look at element-wise operations, array broadcasting. We'll look at vectorization, and then we'll move on to array manipulation. We'll look at how we can reshape our arrays, flatten our arrays, transposing arrays, joining and splitting arrays. Then we're also going to look at aggregation functions and statistical operations. So we are going to look at this. Okay, if we have time, we're going to then look at random number generation. All right, so let's move on into it. As you can see, we have quite a lot to look at today. We might overshoot a little bit, but I'll try as much as I can to to wrap up with the class by 7. Right? If not, we might overshoot a little bit, and I ask for your patience as regarding that. So yeah, let's shoot. So basically, we've looked at the fundamentals of NumPy, right? And we looked at how we can create arrays. So now we're going to look at how we can access elements from arrays. Okay, so before I push, I hope everyone can hear me. Like, please let me know so I don't just go ahead and nobody's hearing me or seeing my screen. Okay, all right, great. So now let's look at how we can slice arrays. Slicing. All right, let me make this like this. All right. So how do we slice arrays in NumPy? So slicing arrays is the same thing as indexing from what we've known, right? So let's assume we create a variable x, a list variable. We'll just say just put random numbers inside, and if I want to access this particular element, let's say I want to access 4 to 6. How do I do that? Using the knowledge of indexing that we've looked at previously. How do I extract these 3 numbers from this list? I want to know if we can still remember what we've done, because it's basically the same concept or the same thing with array slicing. So what code am I going to use to slice or to extract this data from our list variable? All right, someone is saying 0:3. That is Dada. Then Felix, this 1:3 in bracket. Aziz Mohammed X. Then your bracket 1:4. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of different things. Okay. So let's just try some of them. So yeah, the one teaching me now. So someone said 0:3. Let's see. Okay, someone just the person just 0:3. This won't do anything. Just give you an error, right? Like it actually isn't recognized as any code or command. So the second one that we have here is 1:3. Still giving us an error because it doesn't make sense, right? The next one I'm seeing here is x, and then 1, then comma 4. And we are not getting anything. Like, that means it's not working. All right. So the next one I'm getting is 0, 4. So let me just pick the one that is correct here. We have 1, then we have 4. So this is the correct way to do it here. Remember, I taught us how we can index values from our list or any iterable that we are working with. All right. So I told you that a list is indexed, right? Having each element attached to an index, and the index starts from 0. So the first element is 0, second element is 1, third element is 2, fourth is 3, and then the last one here is 4. So if you want to extract these 3 elements, you're going to count the index. So this 4 is at index 1. So we're now going to put the 1 in the brackets, and then followed by this colon. Colon is to tell you, like, okay, is basically indicating that I want to extract a range of values, not just one value. So then the 4 here is corresponding to this 7, right? So, but in Python, when you put in the index, the second value in this index, in this indexing, it omits or it keeps the last value and gives you or returns the one before it or the value before it, if you paid attention to what I said while explaining this indexing. So that is basically how we do. I'm not going back to that because of time. So the reason why I brought this up is because array indexing and slicing follows basically the same thing. So if I create an array now, let's say I create array 1. Let's say np.array, and I do this. Then let's say I want to create a 1-dimensional array. Let's call this array 1D. All right. So I'm going to create a 2-dimensional array. I'll say call this one all right, let's say, and then come here. Or let me just add one more here. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to create the third one, which is going to be a 3-dimensional array. So I'm going to do, let me put one more. All right, so let's just stop here for now. So I'm getting an error now. What did I miss? What am I supposed to do? Quickly. I'm getting an error. What I was supposed to do before I start writing all this command now. Let me just give you a hint. This is the error here. This is the error message. So what do you think I was supposed to do that I didn't do? Exactly. So I'm supposed to like import NumPy first before using any NumPy command, right? Because I can't just use NP without importing NumPy. So I'll come here and say import NumPy as what? NP. So it should run very well. So now I'm going to start working with this array. So I have array 1D, I have array 2D, and I have array 3D. How can I extract or index the elements in these arrays, right? So the way you extract elements from the one-dimensional array is the same way you extract elements or index or slice values from your list, because your list is also the same thing as a one-dimensional array, right, in a structure. So we're just going to jump into two-dimensional array, right? So how do we extract elements or values from these two-dimensional arrays? So before we do that, let's go over what we have here. So now, accessing elements and slicing arrays in NumPy. So NumPy supports powerful indexing and slicing operations, all right? And we can access individual elements using square brackets and indices. So slicing arrays to extract subarrays or specific elements along one or more direction. So this is the syntax here. Your array followed by the starting point, followed by the stop point, then followed by the step. This is for one-dimensional array and multi-dimensional slicing for higher dimensional array. So these are examples here. So we create our array, and then using zeros, ones, all the functions I gave us yesterday. So what we have here is we're creating a two-dimensional array here, two-dimensional array here, one-dimensional array here. So we can see that the slicing is basically straightforward. So for one-dimensional array, we can just slice it using the regular slicing syntax that we know from indexing our list and our variables that we've looked at previously. So, but for two-dimensional array, there's something else that we're going to introduce. So let's just bring up the array here. So we have we have our two-dimensional array here. Now remember that this is our row. We have 3 rows here and 4 columns. So this is a 3x4 array. So if you check the shape, that is a 3x4, right? So and this is a two-dimensional array, right? 2, and it has a size of what, 12. So we know different attributes of this array. So we can establish, or we've established as a two-dimensional array. Now it's important for you to have that understanding. Very, very important. And it's important for you to know how to distinguish between rows and columns. So that was why I needed to lay emphasis on that in yesterday's class. Rows are the horizontal portion of our data, while columns are the vertical aspect, right? So rows spans from the left to right, while column comes from top to bottom, right? I hope that is very clear. So let's just come here now and say we want to slice our 2D array. So it follows the same syntax using the square brackets. So if I put one value, just one single value there, I'm going to get, it corresponds to the row, right? As you can see here, we have, let me print the 2D array out here first. Print array 2D. So this first value that we will put here corresponds to the second index. So this one here is index 1. But okay, let me give you the formula first. So this is the structure, not necessarily formula. So we have row index and then column index. So the first value you are going to be having in your square bracket corresponds to your row index, while the second value you'll be having after your comma corresponds to your column index. So if I have 1 here, it will give me all the second row in this our array. So remember, the indexing starts from 0. So this first row here is index 0, this second row here is index 1, and then this third row here is index 2. So if I come here and I change it to 0, I'm going to have sorry, this should be commented out. So we have the first row here, which corresponds to the first values in our array. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 2, 3, 4, 5. If I change this to 2, I'm going to have the last row in our array here, which is 8, 4, 6, 3 and 8, 4, 6, 3. So that should tell you that the first value, the value that comes first corresponds to your row index, right? The second value corresponds to your column index. So if I come here and I let's see, I just put this here and I put 1 here, I'm going to get the second ignore this colon that I put here. I will explain what it means. So if after your comma, the next value that follows it corresponds to your column index. Remember the structure I gave us here. So your column index is indexed in this way. This is the first column, right? It corresponds to index 0. This is your second column, corresponds to index 1. Third column, index 2. Then fourth column, index 3. So now you have 2 different kinds of index in your array because it is 2-dimensional, right? In your normal 1-dimensional array, you just have row, a single row. You don't have columns. So you don't need to have this separate indexing for the rows and columns. You just have one indexing from 0 to whatever index that you have, depending on the number of values, right? But in this 2-dimensional case, since you have rows and columns, you should be able to extract your rows by using a specific index number and also extract from your column using specific column number. All right, so your rows have a different or a separate indexing from your column, right? So this is how you do this. So this particular colon sign here means that we want this particular indexing to give us all the rows. So if you check it now, this 334 corresponds to what? This column. But in this column, we actually have values from each row. So the first 3 here is column 1. So yes, column index, let's just use the normal numbering, not index now. This column corresponds to the second column and the first row. So this 3 is at the intersection of column 2 and row 1. Let's just use the index now, just so as not to bring confusions. It corresponds to column index 1 and row index 0. You understand? So if I want to extract only these 3, what I'm going to put here is, for row, I'm going to put what? 0, then comma, followed by what? 1. So if I run this, it's going to give me 3, because each value here is at the intersection of a row and column. So you have to pinpoint that particular combination of row and column to give you a single value. So if I want to get a single value in my 2-dimensional array, I would have to use both the row index and the column index, right? That's just how we do indexing in NumPy arrays, most specifically 2-dimensional arrays, right? So let's just continue. So in the case where we have this colon here, what we are basically saying is that we don't want to point to a specific row, but we want to get all the rows. But now, while we are getting all the rows, we want to get the columns, the values in index 1 for your column, or column index 1. So if I run this, I'm going to get 334, because 3 is in the first row, the second 3 is in the second row, the 4 here is in this third row, right? So we're going to get everything, because we have your colon here, which tells Python that we want all the rows. Why this one is going to point at that particular column that we are going to be getting. So if I run this, you're going to get this, right, which is the second column at index 1. If I change this to 0, I'm going to get the first column here at index 0. So if I run it, I'm going to get 228. All right, I'm going to get 228. So if I change this to 2, I'm going to get why is this wasting time? I'm going to get this third column at index 2. I'm going to get 416. If I change it to 3, I'm going to get this. So this is basically how we can index 2-dimensional array. So let's just give more examples. Let's say I want to index just the column value at row, our second row. We want to index is the column value from our second row. We can just come here and change this column to 1, which corresponds to the second row. This is the index for the second row, and then we can like pick the particular column that we want to like get. So maybe let's say we want to get this particular value here. It is at index 3, so I'm just going to leave it there. I'll run it, and you see I'm getting 2. So whenever you have a combination of these two values, you'll be having a single value, right, as an output, right? But now if I don't want, if I just want to get the the second column, which is at index 1, I won't put any column value here. I'm just going to run it like that. You can see I can just put the comma and leave this space empty, right? It will give me the rows at index 1, as you can see. So I'm not specifying any column. So it's basically returning all the columns to me. So this 2 is at column 1, 3 is at column 2, 1 is at column 3, 2 is at column 4. So I need you to understand the relationship between rows and columns so that you don't get confused. So each value has is in a particular row and is also in a particular column and at the same time. So you need to understand the relationship to be able to like perform indexing and slicing on arrays. So I believe at least that's giving you an idea on how we can slice two-dimensional arrays, right? So, but one thing you just need to understand is you need to understand rows and columns, where rows are located and where columns are located. Rows are the horizontal aspect of your data, while columns are the vertical aspects of your data. All right, so that is it for two-dimensional array. We're going to move on to indexing three-dimensional arrays. All right. So someone just asked, why can't we use? You can actually use it. You can actually use it. You can use this particular colon sign for your colon indexing. It will still give it the same thing, right? Thank you for asking that question. You can use it as well to give it the same thing. If I come here and do something like this, I'm going to get an error, right? Because you can't have a comma starting your bracket. So that is why whenever you want to index of the row, you just have to like go with this particular colon sign. But for the colon, you can either leave it, or you can put the colon symbol there, right? So it just depends on you. But this is basically how you do your slicing. All right. So I think there's something I'm missing. Okay, let's say we want to slice just the second row and the third row. We don't want to slice this first row. How do we do it? Now we're going to extend it a little bit. So instead of saying this colon sign, comma, instead of saying this column sign, comma, let's say 1, instead of doing this to get your second column, we can now change this to get just the second row at index 1 and the third row at index 2. All right. So if I come here, I'm going to basically act as if I am slicing a list or a one-dimensional array. So how I do that is just to put in my index, which is going to be 1, and then I'm going to have okay, I'm going to have 1 colon, then nothing is going to follow it. So whenever I have this kind of syntax, what I'm telling Python is that give me all the rows from index 1 till the end. That's basically what this syntax means. Give me all the rows from index 1 to the end. So if I do this, I'm going to get something like this. So you see that in this case, I'm having this second row and third row without the first row. This is what this syntax does. Let me make this thing presentable. Okay, so now this is what we are going to be working with. We are going to have the first row here, and then we're going to have the last row. So let's say I want to get the first column of the first row, second row, and the last row. I'm going to have this. So this is going to get me the two values at the two column values at the second row and at the last row at colon index 1, which is this particular one here. So this might sound a little bit confusing, but it's prone to be confusing because of the whole intersection and the whole rows and column combination. Right? But just someone is saying it's breaking. Please, can someone confirm if it's a general issue or just peculiar to that person? So I know if I'm going to adjust myself. Class rep and assistant, is there any problem with the network?
No, sir, it's clear on my end.
Yes, for a moment it was breaking, but all I had to do was just leave the group and come back.
Okay. But you can hear me clearly now, right?
Yes, sir, all good. I can hear you clearly now, and I can see you.
Okay. Okay, some persons are saying very clear, very. So I think majority of us are not having issue. Are not having any issue. So if you're having any network issues, just leave and then rejoin. Hopefully it gets resolved. So still on array slicing. So now so depending on what you want to do, you need to know how you can combine the indexes for your rows and the index for your column to get what you want. All right, let's say for now we want to get these two values here. We want to get 2 and 3. We want to get 2 and 3. I want you all to tell me exactly what index I'm going to have inside of this bracket. I want to get this value 2 here and this value 3. I just want to know if you understand what I've been explaining so far. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of answers. Remember, whenever you are going to do something like this, you ask yourself, where are these two values located? That's the first question you ask. Okay, I want to get this value 2 and this value 3. Now, you ask yourself, where are they located? So if you check this particular array, you notice that this 2 is located on the second row, which is index 1, and the 3 is located on this third or the last row, which is index 3. So that is going to be your first, that is going to be your starting point. So you come here and say, since we have the 2 at index 1, I'm going to put 1 there, and then put my colon. So what I'm going to be getting all the rows from index 1 till the last index, right? So now to get just these 2 and 3, because if I run this particular code, I'm going to get all these values, everything like this. So I want to streamline it to just the colon. Now I'm going to now put my comma. Whenever you put comma, just know that the value that follow it corresponds to the index for your colon. So in this case, now these 2 and 3, they are in column 4, which corresponds to index 3. All right, so this is 0 index 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to come here and put 3. So once I do this, this combination of indexes should give me these 2 and 3. So I'll run it and I'm going to get 2 and 3. I hope you understand that. I see some people doing just 1 then colon 3. This is going to give me this this is going to give me these last two rows here, right? So it's just going to give me the rows and not a specific column. It just give me all the columns with this specific rows. So to get that combination, we have to include our colon. So this one to give us just this one, because Python doesn't look at the last index yet. So I'll just leave it at this and then come here and put our column index. All right, so that's basically it. So I'm going to ask us another question just to be sure that we are clear on this. So if I want to access or slice let's say 4 and 1, how do I do it? Okay, I need more responses. I need more people to like participate in this. Can only see few persons. All right, all right. Okay, so let's just push. I think we most of us got the answer here. So we're going to see that if we come here and put this 4 is at row 1, which corresponds to index 0, and then this one is index 1. So I'm going to have 0 and then 2. So I'm just going to have this colon and then end it with 2. So what this basically means is that it will get all the index from beginning and stop at this index 2. All right. So this is for the row. And then for our column, this particular value is in this third column, which is column index 2. So I'm going to have it like this. So if I run this, I'm going to get 4 and 1. And I'm not sure I saw anybody that got that. Think that's not really a good thing, meaning that we've not yet understood exactly how to do this. Okay, I think someone got it here. Okay, I'm going through the responses. No. The Charles Livingstone, that person didn't get it. The 2 is supposed to be after the colon and not before the colon. All right. Exactly. So this is basically how you get it. So let me just give another example. I want to be sure that we are still following up to this point and we understand it. Because moving on to 3 dimension is going to even get a whole lot more complex. So if you don't understand this, it will be much difficult to understand that. So let's say we want to index 3 and 3 and 3. This 3 here and this 3 here. How do we do? Remember that the way you think about it is by starting to identify where these values are located on the row and on the column. All right. So you locate where these values are on the row and column and then translate it into indexes. So that is how you approach programming problem. You don't just push out or try out things without thinking about it. You think through it. Okay, where is the first 3 located? Which row is it located? It's located on the first row, which is in 0. second 3 is located in the second row, which is index 1, and then which column are these two values located. So this is how you interpret these things, and then you translate it to index. All right, you translate it to an index. So let's see how we can do this. So we have 3 and 3, which is still the same. We're still going to leave it at this colon followed by 2, because we want to get the first and second row. Then instead of putting 2 here, we're going to put 1, because this index corresponds to this second colon, which is index 1. If I run this, I'm going to get 3 and 3. All right. So I'm seeing most of us are saying 1 and 1, which is going to give us just one value. This particular syntax here is going to give us the first colon, right? Remember I told you that the last value when indexing is not always returned. Like normally the index, this index 1, it should be this second column, but in Python it does not like return it. It just stops at the index before it. So for you to include the second row, you have to add 1 index to that index. So you make it 2, so that it would include this one as part of it. I don't know why they made it like that. It's even a whole lot more confusing, like than just making it get that particular include that index in the output. I don't know why the Python NumPy developers made it like this, right? But this is how it is, and this is how you're going to be working with indexing. So that is basically it, and I'm not yet satisfied on the responses I'm getting. So let me just throw one last one here before we move on to the next thing. So let's say I want to get 2 and 8. This 2 here and 8. How do I do it? I want to get 2 and 8. How do I do it? Yes, Ayo Mide, that can work. That can definitely work. So if you put 0, then your colon and 1, it would work. So how do I do 2 and 8? Okay, so because of that, let me just, I think we are getting this one. So for 2 and 8, we just come here and put, since the 2 is in the second row, which is index 1, we're going to put 1 here, and then just put, either we put the colon and then followed by comma, or we put 3 here, which is going to return these 2 colons, the last 2 colons, right, followed by the row in which these 2 values are located. So the row is the first row, sorry, the colon rather, which is at index 0. If I run this, I'm going to get 2 and 8. All right. But if I remove this 3, it's going to give me the same thing, right? So this is the syntax for indexing. I feel you just need to still go over this. And if you have questions in the question session, you can ask your question. There was a question someone asked, which I really see as important. Someone asked, I think, let me check quickly if the question is still there. Okay, I think Dada Musibao, he said, what if you want the first and last row? So what is basically asking is, what if you don't want to get the rows sequentially? You want to just get them like in like just randomly. You want to get the first row and then the last row. How do you do that? It's actually possible as well. So how you do that is by using this particular syntax. Is different from the one that we are doing, right? So for the row, you're going to now put a new bracket, right? And this is going to take in the index of your row. So in your row, we have 3 indexes here. Let's say you want to get the first row and the last row. So in this list, we're just going to come here and put 0, comma, what, 2. If I run this, I'm going to get this output. So I'm going, this 2, 3, 4, 5 is the first row, This 8463 is the last row. I hope we are understanding this. So this particular index corresponds to the row. So we are now bringing in a new square bracket instead of the bigger bracket. So this is where you want to like get the indexes at different position and not sequentially. All right, so you can just get different. Let's say you want to get index 0 and then index 5. You don't want to get index 0 to 5, or you don't want to get index 4 and 5. You just want to get them randomly. This is how you do this. And let's say you want to add the colon. You can now come here and say you want to get it at colon 2. All right, so you get 4 here and what 6 here. You can also make it even more interesting and say you want to get colon 1 and colon 3. So I'm going to get this. I'm going to get 3. Sorry, we're going to get 3 here and then 3 here, because this is colon 1 and this is colon 3, and this one is row 0 and row 2. I hope this is not getting confusing at this point and we are understanding. So the thing is just for you to understand indexing. What particular index corresponds to the value that you want to get. So just know that each of these values have an index. For example, this 2 here has 2 indexes, right? So let me see if I can just replicate that so you understand it. So this array now, if I want to like show you in index, so it is going to be something like this. So the first value, which is 2, is going to have 2 index. So it's going to be 0, 0. The second value is 3. It's going to have 0, 1. The third value, which is what 4, is going to have index 0, 2. The fourth value, which is 5, is going to have 0, 3. So I'm translating the array values into the index of each of those values. So you understand what I'm saying. So if I come here, let me just copy this. I'm going to copy. To 1, changes to 1, changes to 1, changes to 1, come here, changes to 2, changes to 2, changes to 2, changes to 2. So this is just the translation or the translation of our array to indexes. So this is what the computer is seeing. So when you get any of these values, these are the combinations that you have to like bring together, right? So for example, now if I let me come here and just do the indexing stuff. So array 2D. Let's say I want to get this particular value, which is 3. If I copy this 1 and 1 here, copy it here, you see I'm going to get what 3, right? If I copy this 2 and 2 here, I'm going to get 6, right? Which is this. So you just have to know the index value, the row index value and the column index value for each of your elements in your array. All right. And then after that, you can now combine them as you wish. Basically. So you just have to practice this to get familiar with it and to also to get comfortable with it. All right. So after this class, you will get access to the video. The material is has already been made available, and the assignment for this week will also help you as well to practice. So that's basically it for indexing 2-dimensional arrays. Now let's go to 3-dimensional arrays. So if you understand this 2-dimensional array, understanding the 3-dimensional array won't be much of a problem. All right, so let's bring up our 3-dimensional array. So the attendance is actually go ahead and sign your attendance for this class. So 1 hour into the class, the attendance is always open. So I'm going to print this out. All right, so this is our 3-dimensional array. Now, how do we slice a 3-dimensional array? It is very simple. Trust me, it is very simple. If you can slice your 2-dimensional array, you can slice your 3-dimensional array. So for 3-dimensional array, it has the slicing values would be 3 instead of 2. So you're going to have something like this: block index followed by row index followed by column index. So you have 3 indexes, right? Instead of 2 indexes like in 2-dimensional array. So you have to know which particular block you want to get, and which particular row in that block you want to get, and which particular column in that block you want to get. All right. So in this case, we already know we have how many blocks do we have in this particular 3-dimensional array? Or I just want to know what is the shape of this 3-dimensional array quickly. What's the shape of this 3-dimensional array? I said shape, not dimension, shape. All right. So yeah, I think you're all correct. The shape is, let me just come here so we can see it. Array 3D.shape. So you can see the shape here is 2 by 3 by 4, which basically means we have 2 blocks, and in each of the block we have 3 rows and 4 columns. All right. So that's the shape of this our array. So now, if you are going to be working with the indexes, we have to know that each block would have an index. All right. So if I come here and then just say, let me comment this particular one out, and if I come here and say array 3D, then 1, I'm going to get the block at index 1. Like, do we understand what I just did now? You know, we have 2 blocks. Each of the block have an index. All right. So we are having something else that is being indexed in our 3-dimensional array. In our 2-dimensional array, we just have our rows and columns indexed. Array, we have both the blocks that we are having in our array, they are also indexed as well. So we have to consider them when slicing our array, our 3-dimensional array. So in this case, if I say, if I just put 1 here, what I mean is that give me the block at index 1. So this is the block at index 1. We just have 2 indexes here, which is 1 and 2. If I say 2, I'm going to get an error. Why? Why am I getting an error in this case? Can someone just tell me? Why am I? If you understand what I just said, I think you should be able to answer this question. Why am I getting an error when I put 2 here? I'm not asking for the name of the error. Why am I getting an error? Thank you, Dada. The block is not up to 3, and Suleiman, because there's no index 2 there. We have just 2 blocks. There's no second. There is a second block actually, Winnie, but there is no block with index at index 2. Remember, our indexing starts from 0. So if we have 2 blocks, we are going to have index 0 and index 1. If we have 3 blocks, we are going to have index 0, index 1, and index 2. All right. So this is just the answer. The block isn't up to 3. That's why we're getting an index error here. So you can see what the error is here. Index 2 is out of bounds for us. This is just English, basically telling me that you only have 2 indexes, which is 0 and 1 in this place. So if I come here and I say 0, I'm going to get the first block. If I come here and say 0 and then 1, I'm going to get let's say 2. I'm going to get the 2 blocks, all right? So it's just like replicating or like bringing the entire 3-dimensional array. So now let's move on to the second value we would have. So if I say I want to get the first block, which is this, but in the first block, I want to get all the rows, right? All the rows. I'm still going to get the same thing. Now, if I include another value, which corresponds to the column, I want to get the column at index 1, and I come and I put 1, I'm going to get this value, which is 632, which is this value here, 632. So we have to get this particular values, we have to like indicate the block number, the row index, the block index, the row index, and the column index. It's just like locating something, right? If you want to locate maybe your friend that lives in a particular country, for you to locate that person specifically, you need to know the state where they reside. Not just knowing the state, you need to know the local government, and you also need to know the street and then the house number. You see that there are layers of information that you need to have for you to locate that person. So the same thing happens when you're trying to access a value or values from your array. You need to have the index. The index is like the location. Where is this thing located at? Okay, at index this. Then you include that index and then include the other indexes that the combination will give you that value. All right. So this is basically how you can slice a 3-dimensional array. So let's give more examples. Let's say we want to get this first row for the second block. We can come here and say change it to 1 because it's the second block we need, and then we need the first row, so it's 0, but we need all columns. So either we put any, we can decide not to put anything there. We can decide just to put this column here, and then this is going to give us 4332, which is this 4332. All right. So if I want to get all the rows for column 1, I'm going to get this. All right. So there's another thing that if let's say you want to get the same value as you have in your array, you can just come here and say colon, colon, colon. This is going to give you everything. So this, I just did this so you understand what the column does. The column gives you all the indexes. Once you put colon, it gives you all the indexes for each of the levels, for the block, for the rows, and for the columns. All right. So if I remove this column for the row, for the block, and put 0, it's going to give me the first block and everything. It's going to give me everything in the first block, right? Because I just have I just specified the index for just the block, but for the rows and column, I said give me everything by specifying colon and colon. All right. If I come here and I change it to let's say I change everything here, I'm going to get what I'm saying is that give me all the blocks, but then in each block I need the first row and all the column. So the first row here, let me print out my 3D array. Yeah. Array 3D. All right. So in this case, I want all the blocks, right? First and second. But for each block, I want the first row for each of the blocks. So this is the first row. This is the first row for block 1, which corresponds to this. And this is the first row for block 2, which corresponds to this. And for each, and I need you to give me all the columns. So that's why you're getting all these values here. But if I want you to give me for a specific column, let's say for column 2, that is for column 3, which is at index 2, is going to now give me just this value 4 and 2. So this 4 here is this 4 here because it's is the first block, right? at at row 1, which is index 0, and colon 3, which is index 2, right? So this is what it's going to give me here. So this is it can be very, very like confusing and tricky, but once you like know the indexes of the values, like you'll be able to have a better grasp of all these things I'm explaining, right? The main thing is just for you to understand how you can locate the index of the value, or what the index of a particular value is. So in this case, a particular value, for you to access the index, you are going to need to access 3 indexes. In this case, it's going to be block index, row index, and then column index. So 3D array is like, let's say you want to go and visit your friend now, and you are from another country. Let's say you are from Ghana and you want to come to Nigeria to visit your friend. 3D array is like coming from another country into a country. Nigeria now is going to be the first level of indexing. Then when you come to Nigeria, you will now streamline your search to a particular state in Nigeria, which is going to be like, let's say, Lagos State. Once you get to Lagos State, you now have to now find the particular local government of that your friend. All right. So that should give you the specific location of your friend. Why for two-dimensional array? Two-dimensional array is like you're already living in Nigeria. You're not living outside of Nigeria. So while you're in Nigeria, you just have to locate the state of your friend, and you have like 2 levels of location in two-dimensional array. But for three-dimensional array, you have 3 levels of locations or levels of indexing, as we have it here in NumPy, right? I hope that is actually clear. If it's still very confusing, don't worry. It's very, very normal. Like, this part of NumPy can be very elusive because of all these matrices and all of that. So if it is new to you, it's expected that you might not grasp it immediately. But if you grasp it, that's fine. But if you've not, you can always go back to the video, practice and all of that, and then you get that, trust me. So that's how you perform indexing for your three-dimensional array. So if you want to randomly get values, you can use the same thing you did the other time. Put your brackets here, select the particular index you want, right? Let's say I want 0 and let's say I want 0 and 3. We have 0, 1, 2. X is 0 and 2. And for our colon, we have let's say 1 and 0, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 3. All right. So we can have something like this. So it's going to point to a particular value. So if I start explaining this, what this basically means is that this one corresponds to the block, which is this second block here. All right. And this one corresponds to the indexes in that block, row indexes, which is this one, 0 and 2. So it is now going to streamline its search to these 2 rows. It's not going to pay attention to this middle one. It will skip it. And then you are going to look at, for these 2 columns, these 2 rows, we are now going to look at column 1 and 3. So in this particular row, what is column 1? This is column 1, this one here. So we're going to extract that value, which is 3. And then for the second one, which is index 3, is this, we're going to get this particular value as well. So that's how we can index values from a three-dimensional array. So before I proceed, I would just like to just test our understanding to see if we've gotten a hang of it. So let's assume I want to extract only 2. This particular 2 that I highlighted now. How do I do that? What syntax am I going to use? Okay, someone says 0, 1, 3. Are you sure about that? Did you, like, I need you, before you just give an answer, I need you to look at it, like interpret the locations first before you get the index. You understand? interpret the location first before you don't need to rush it. This is not something you rush. Try to understand where that 2 is located. That 2 is like your friend you are trying to visit. So you don't just enter an Uber and say, Uber, I don't know where I'm going to, but I'm going in that direction. That you need to give a specific location so the person can take you to the particular address of your friend. So for this 2, you have to know which block is that 2 located in. So once you can get that block, you know that, okay, this block is at index this. So in that block now, which row is that 2 located in? So you know that, okay, this 2 is in this particular row, which corresponds to index this. After that row, you now say, which column is that 2 in? So you now say, this 2 is in column this, which corresponds to index this. That's how you interpret it. Once you can understand this flow that I've just explained, it will be easy for you. Trust me, it's going to be easy for you. So in this case, now let's just quickly do it. So 2 is located in block 1, which is going to be 0. So we're going to have so is this 2 here, right? So we're going to have 0 as the first index, which is the index for the block in which the 2 is. So which row is the 2 in now? It is at index, row index 2, right? Because if you count, this is the first row, index 0, second row, index 1, and third row, index 2. That is where the 2 is. But we don't stop here. The 2 also have a particular column in which it belongs to. Which column does that 2 belong to? It belongs to the second column here, which is index 1. So I'm going to put 1 here. So I'm going to have 0, 2, 1. So if you said 0, 2, 1, just like that, you are correct. There's no need to add any column there because you are getting a specific value. So those that say 0, 2, 1, that shows that you understand what we've been saying so far. All right. So those that didn't get it, try to understand why exactly you didn't get this in the correct indexes. All right. So if I run this, I'm going to get 2. Okay. So now let's just quickly do something. Like another example just to bring everybody on board. Let's say I want to get 9 and 4. How do I do this? What indexing would I specify? What indexes will I specify rather? Okay. Yeah, like I can see some people getting it, like just few persons have gotten it so far. So because of time, let's go over it together. So now 9 and 4, the first question you ask yourself, which country is this person located in? Nigeria. So which index is Nigeria? Index this. So you ask which block is this phone located in? It's located in block 2, which corresponds to index what? 1. So I'm going to put 1 here, then comma. So you know that the next thing is what? Your row index. So which row is this are these values located in? So we have this first row, which is index 0, and then the second row, index 1. This is where this value we are trying to locate is located, right, in the row index. So we are going to put 1 there. And then when we come to the column, which column is this? Which columns rather are these values located in? Because these values are actually not in the same column, obviously. So we are going to have to specify the columns in which they are located. So they are located in 2 columns, which is the third and fourth column, which correspond to the index 2 and index 3. So how do you interpret this index 2 and 3? So you can just come here, either you say 2 colon and then nothing. It gives you every colon from the second index till the end, or you can just say 2 and what 4. All right, if you say 2 and 3, to give you just this particular one based on what I explained. So either you have it like this or you put 4 there, but let's have it like this. And I think I didn't see, I've not seen anybody that got it correctly. Let me check. Okay. Olajobi Adegbola got it. Those, I think you understand that. Abigail Eze got it. Who else? Winnie, you got it. Kingsley. All right. So yeah, basically, I think some of us are getting to understand it at this point, right? So this is basically how you do it. So if you run this, you're going to get 9 and 4. All right. So you can just practice on your own. Ask yourself questions like, or just test yourself like, okay, just pick random values. Let's say this 3 now here and this 3 here. You can just ask yourself, I want to pick this 3 and this 3. How do I locate it? All right. So because of time, I'm not going to dwell on that. So, but on your own, you can ask, try to locate this 3 here and this 3 here. So let's move forward to what we have next. I believe that we've been able to at least have an understanding of how we can slice arrays, especially 2-dimensional arrays and 3-dimensional arrays. For 1-dimensional arrays, very straightforward. It's normal slicing and indexing that you are familiar with already. That was why we really didn't dwell much on it. Okay, so let's move forward. We still have some things to look at today. So you can as well use the minus sign the same way you can use minus sign in a list. So a minus sign will just give you the last index as we've explained before. All right, so all right, so basic operations in NumPy. So we are going to look at how we can perform operations using NumPy arrays. So we've looked at how we can create NumPy arrays. We've also looked at how we can also extract our elements or slice elements from our arrays. Now we're going to look at how we can perform basic operations in NumPy. So in NumPy, basic operations on arrays are essential for performing numerical computations effectively or efficiently. The essence of even having NumPy arrays is to perform operations, right? So there are a lot of operations that we do. You won't just have arrays sitting there and doing nothing. The arrays have to actually be used in some kind of operation or some numerical computation. So look, the first one we have here is called element-wise operations. I need us to pay attention, right? We have element-wise operations. So what does element-wise operation mean? Now remember when we created an array, everything here, every single thing here, every value here is an element. So 5 is an element, 6 is an element, 4 is an element, 3 is an element, 2 is an element. So all the values here, they are individual elements. They are elements in that array. So when we say element-wise operation, what we basically mean that we want to perform an operation on every single or individual element in that array. All right. So NumPy allows you to perform arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division on arrays element-wise. This is very important, this point, element-wise. When I perform an operation on an array element-wise, what I expect you to do is to perform that particular operation, whether it's multiplication, division, or whatever, on each element individually. All right, individually. So now that is what element-wise operation is. So the functionality or the implementation of that is enabled by what we call universal functions, or in short, ufuncs. So whenever you hear ufunc, just know that these are methods or functions in NumPy that allows you to perform element-wise operations. All right. So I'm going to like give us examples of the element-wise operation. So we have arithmetic operation. We have addition. We have subtraction. We have multiplication. So these are the basic arithmetic operations that we can perform on our NumPy array. We can perform a whole lot of other like operations. There are a lot. Trust me. Like even the ones that you might not even use at all to stop doing data science. Like there are a lot of operations. Like that is the point of that level of operations that you can perform in NumPy. But the ones that we are going to be using most frequently are these: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. All right. So let's see how we can do that. So quickly, you see, I told you about universal functions, and I told you that there are actually methods of functions that allows you to perform this arithmetic operation. So you see, we have NP add here, we have NP subtract, we have NP multiply, we have NP divide. All right. So let's quickly look at how we can do that. So normally, when we want to perform a normal arithmetic operation in Python, we can come and say 2 plus 2 give us 4. All right, that's what you are familiar with. I can say 4 minus 3 give us 1. Right, we are familiar with that. But now, how do we do the same thing for NumPy arrays? Right. Let's say I have a 2-dimensional array. Let's say array 2D 1, or let's just use x and y. X is equals to np.array. Okay, let's start from 1-dimensional array. Okay, I have 3, 4, 5, 2. All right, let me have y here. Then np.array. I'm going to have 6, 7, 3, 4. So these are 2 arrays, right, that we want to like perform arithmetic operation on. So if I come here and I say x plus y, what am I going to get? I'm going to get let me see. This function or method is not subscriptable. Okay, this should work, but I want you people to think a little. What do you think is the problem here? What do you think is what do you think caused this error that we're having? Thank you, Suleiman. This np.array is a function. I remember I told us that functions or methods usually come with a bracket. All right. So this square bracket we're having here is the argument, the least argument that should be inside the array method or function. So we didn't put that, and we got this error, which basically means built-in function, blah, 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 is not subscriptable. So I'll come here and just put the bracket, opening bracket, and then closing bracket. Come here, put opening bracket and closing brackets. I think this is what I'll be doing. Whenever I run into an error, I'm going to just use it as a lesson so we understand how to think, because that is what programming is all about. So when you notice this in your own code, you know exactly how to approach it. So I'll run this. I'm going to get this result. I'm going to get 9, 11, 8, 6. So this is what we call element-wise operation. All right, element-wise operation. The operation was performed on each of the elements. So we have 3, 4, 5, 2. And let's say we have something like this now. It's not going to work because this array is not the same shape with this array. Because to perform element-wise operation, both arrays have to be of the same shape because it is element-wise. It is matching each value to the corresponding value in the next array. So if 3 is matched with 6, 4 is matched with 7, 5 is matched with 3, what will 2 be matched with now? That is what will now cause confusion in NumPy, and then it will give you an error, like it doesn't understand how to do this thing. So it will just throw an error and tell you that the shape of these arrays are not the same, are not aligned. So we have to ensure that they are aligned. But there's something else I'm going to introduce or talk about, which but let's just finish this first. So if I run this, we're going to have this. So 3 plus 6 is what? 9. 4 plus 7. 5 plus 3 is what? 8. 2 plus 3 is what? 5. So this is element-wise operation. The arithmetic operation addition was performed on each element of the two arrays. All right. So if I put minus here, I'm going to get this. If I put division here, I'm going to get this. And what again? If I put multiplication, I'm going to get this. Let's try modulo that we all know. If I put modulo, I'm going to get this. Let's try floor division. What's the symbol for floor division? And what does floor division do? It's just like memory juggle. What does it do? All right. So yeah. So if I do floor division, it just give me this. All right. So that's basically it about element wise. You can use it. There are a lot of as much as you can think of, you can use it in elements wise. So you just perform the operation elements wise. All right. So let's look at ufuncs. How we can use ufuncs for elements wise operations. So we have several ufuncs. We have addition. We have np.add. Like these ufuncs are actually methods. We have np. We have np.add. We have np.subtract. We have np.multiply. We have np.divide. I think we have a lot of other, we have some other ufuncs which you can explore on your own. We have np.subtract. We have np.divide. We have np.multiply. All right, so now if I come here and I put the first array, which is x and y, and I just come here and print, it will perform element-wise operation on it. So what is the, okay. So I'm going to put print here, put print here, put print here. I'm going to put x and y, put x and y, I'm going to put x and y. So I'm going to get this. This is for addition, this is for subtraction, this is for division, this is for multiplication. All right, so it performs element-wise operations on each of them. So these are some universal functions that we have, all right, that we can use for element-wise operation. You can check some other ufuncs by just saying dir and then saying np. So you should get if you scroll through, you're going to see a lot of functions that you can play around with depending on what you are doing. So there are a lot of them like embedded in all of this thing that you're seeing right now. So the addition, let's just go to A. See, we have it there. We have where is add? So you can see we have add here with the ufunc. If you check S, you see subtract. To subtract here, right? So everything you can, there are a lot of things that you can just pick up from here and just play around with it. So but that's basically what element-wise operation mean in NumPy, and that's how you can perform element-wise operation. So just ensure that you stick with the rule. The size, the shape of your arrays must be aligned. All right. So this is for one-dimensional array. So let's look at two-dimensional arrays now, because things usually get complicated once we move up dimensions, or once we get to a higher dimension. So like performing element-wise operations on 2D arrays. Okay, so let's create our 2D array. Let's just use x2d as the np.array. Then I'm going to have this. All right, let me just make it like this to be even better. So I'm going to have 3, 4, 5, 2, 1, 4, and then 7, 4, 5. All right, so this is a two-dimensional array. All right, this is the first one. Then I'll create the second one here. np.array. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to come here to, let's say, 7, 4, 2, 4, 3, 2, and then 6, 2, 2, 1. So these are the two arrays I'm going to be like performing element-wise operations on. All right, so I've created my array. Now I want to like now perform this element-wise operation. So how do I do that? So I'll come here and I'm going to say x2d, or let me use my universal function. Say add x2d to and y2d. So if I run this, I'm going to get an error. Why? Because I have not run this cell yet. So I'll come back here and then run this cell, and I'm going to get this. So what happened is that the elements in each array were connected or tagged. So this 3 is connected or linked with this one here. This one is linked to this one. This one is linked. So when the addition operation needs to be executed, each value that has been linked to the corresponding value would have the addition operation performed on them individually, and you get a new array, right? Which is like the addition of the two of this array. So 7 plus 3 is what? 10. 4 plus 4 is what? 8. 2 plus 5 is what? 7. 4 plus 2 is what? 6. 3 plus 1 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. And like that, like that, like that. So this is NumPy for you. Remember when we introduced NumPy, I said it's for numerical computation. So for those of us that are already like, wow, we're having a lot of numbers, matrices. This is this is data science. So we've not really even started data science itself, although it's not going to be number, because we have a lot of libraries and functions that would abstract all those things and make it easy for us to work with, right? But at least you need to have understanding of how these things work, right? You need to understand how this, because when you are working with the data will be represented in form of a matrix, right? A NumPy array. So you need to know how NumPy array work to be able to work with your data when doing machine learning and the things we are going to be looking at moving forward. All right. So this is the universal function. So if I come here, change it to subtract, I'm going to get this. If I change this to divide, I'm going to, so it's performing that operation on each element, right? Each element in that in those arrays. So let's say I remove this one here. I do this. And I do this. And I run this. I'm going to get an error. All right. I'm going to get an error. So the error basically means that there's a mismatch in shape between these two arrays. All right. We have a mismatch in shape, so we cannot proceed with performing the operation. So you have to ensure that the shape of the arrays you are working on are consistent. They are consistent, all right, with each other. So they have to be of the same shape. So if you can't see the shape, just come here and say x2d.shape, y2d.shape to ensure that the shapes are aligned. All right, but there are some things we're going to talk about that would kind of change a little of this shape alignment a little bit, right? But for now, just know that for you to perform element-wise operation, you need to have your arrays to be of the same shape. So let's just move on. That is it for 2D. Now for three-dimensional arrays, is basically the same thing. So if you create your three-dimensional arrays, let me just use this, right? I hope that's possible. All right, so this is going to be our three-dimensional array for X and also for Y. So if I come and I say X 3D dot shape, this is going to be my shape 2 by 3 by 3. The same thing for Y 2D by shape. But there's a rule that we would also talk about moving forward about performing operations in NumPy arrays. Right, but for now, let's just look at how we can do it. Same thing with three-dimensional arrays. So we have np dot add. All right, we have our X 3D, and we have our Y 3D. So we would definitely get a three-dimensional array as an output, and this is going to be as a result of the element-wise operations on each of these arrays. All right. So that is basically how we can perform element-wise operations. So just ensure that you have consistent shapes between these two arrays, and that you use the right universal functions. Right, so that's just it. I think this is quite straightforward. The only thing is just that some of us are new to working with arrays. The arrays are basically matrices. Like if you remember in mathematics, we looked at matrices, rows and column and all of that. So this is just it being translated to code, right? So in Python, we use the same idea of matrices, specifically in NumPy. So we call them arrays, right? So that's just it about element-wise operations on arrays. I hope we're all still following. Please, I need feedback. Are we all still following up on to this point? All right, all right. So I'm looking at time. I'm looking at seeing if we should cover up with the entire thing or just stick with the time here. So I want to hear from us. Should I cover the remainder of this material, or should we just wrap up now and continue? Continue next week, because this is the time we're supposed to wrap up. So I just need your feedback on that. All right, all right. So I think I'm just going to stick with them, because I believe most of things, and we already have the time mapped out for stuff that we're going to be doing. So it might be inconvenient extending the time beyond what we are supposed to, like, beyond the time we're supposed to like have for this class. So with that, I'm just going to be stopping here for today, and we'll continue from next class. So the main thing, or the most important thing, is that you have something that you've taken from this class. Like, you're able to grasp something from this class. So that is my main goal, or that is my main concern. Like, I'm not trying to just cramp up information and let's try to meet up with the curriculum and all of that. Definitely, we are going to cover the curriculum. That one is not negotiable. But the most important thing is ensuring that we are understanding everything we are doing step by step. All right. So I know today is already a lot. Like, we've we've scattered your brain, basically. Like, I've scattered your brain. I've turned it upside down, and like, just place it everywhere, all over the place. But trust me, once you get back to the video or practice material, and look at it yourself, it will make a whole lot of sense. All right, it will make a whole lot of sense. The most important thing is that you are practicing all these things we are doing. All right, you are practicing all these things you are doing. So that's going to be it for today's class. We've basically looked at we continued from last class, where we looked at indexing. All right, I think it was this indexing that took a lot of our time. So we looked at indexing, and we've also looked at basic operations. We just looked at element-wise operations and universal functions. So we're supposed to finish up with array broadcasting, and then vectorization, and then look at array manipulation, where we look at how we can reshape our array, reset our array, flattening, and all of that. So the thing remaining are not really like so complex, right? They are just how to use the methods that NumPy provides for us for other functionalities, right? But we might have a little challenge understanding. Understanding is using these operations, right? And in the slicing that I've just explained. So I think we've trashed that out. And this array broadcasting is something that I need to calm down and explain as well, because there are some things that you need to actually follow through with the explanation to understand it. So if I do that now, I just make things like a whole lot confusing, all right? But I'm just going to stop here for today's class, and yeah. So we are going straight to the question Q&A. If you have any question, please raise your hand. Please let the question be restricted to just what we did in class today. Please, no question that is outside of this class should be asked. If you have any of this question, you can do that via your class rep or the assistant, or tag me on the group chat. But any question that you're asking, let it be pertaining to what we did today for time's sake. Thank you very much. All right, so Patience, you go first. You stand, Patience. Please go first and ask your question. You're on mute, to just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, sir. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, sir. So I wanted to ask, if we have about 4-dimensional or 5-dimensional array, just like you explained for the 3D, we firstly have our block index, then row, and then column. Now, if it's 4, 5, how do we get that lineup to be able to find positions to do whatever I want to do, sir.
What do you say? If we have, what are you trying to achieve with the 4-dimensional array?
Well, I'm just curious. I don't have anything specific I want to
No, like
achieve.
what was the question you asked?
Okay, what I'm trying to say is when we're talking about 3D arrays, when we
Yeah.
want to find their positions, maybe slicing or something, we
Mm,
use block index, row and column index.
yeah.
Okay, so what I'm trying to ask is for 4-dimensional or 5-dimensional, how can we get that syntax? Like how do we get it? Because
Yeah,
I
in
believe it's not
4-dimensional
true.
array, you are introducing a new dimension. So what you have in 4-dimensional array is like a stack of 3-dimensional arrays. So the thing is that
Okay.
4-dimensional arrays is out of scope of what we are going to be doing, right? It's basically impractical to work with 4 dimensions. Although when you get to work with some ML and AI stuff, you might even have a lot of other dimensions. Like even in our ML classes, we're going to be looking at extra dimensions. Like sometimes we might have up to 50, 100 dimensions, right? But for now, what we are going to be just looking at is at 3 dimensions, and now we can like walk around with 3 dimensions. But just know if you want to build up from 3 dimensions to 4 dimension, 5 dimension, what you just be doing is introducing a new layer and then taking the lower dimension and stacking them up. So remember how we got our 3 dimension, we brought our 2 dimension and then stacked them and then added an extra bracket. So there we have 4 dimension and 3 dimensions. So if you want to create a 4 dimension, you have a stack of 3 dimensions. So things will now become a whole lot complex at that point because you're having 3-dimensional arrays, right, in stack, right? So if I don't think we have time to just look at that, but you can check it out yourself and see how that will turn out, right? So if you want to access or slice values from 4-dimensional arrays, you now have to introduce another value. So instead of having 3 values as we have in 3 dimensions, you have 4 values. So the first value will correspond to the outermost layer. You can call it whatever you want to call it, right? It might be
Okay,
the
sir.
outermost block, right? So that is going to be the individual 3-dimensional arrays, right? You can have like, let's say you can have like 4 3-dimensional arrays. So that is 4 indexes, 0, 1, 2, 3. So the first value is going to correspond to the index of those 3-dimensional arrays. The second value is now going to correspond to the block in that particular 3-dimensional array. Remember, you're having 3-dimensional arrays inside, like stacked. So
Yes.
you have blocks inside it, and then you select that particular block, and inside that particular block, you now have to select your row and column. So you are going to have 4 values as index to retrieve your element in a 4-dimensional array. So the same thing applies to 5-dimensional arrays, where you have a stack of 4. You can see how complex it's becoming, right? So it's impractical to like look at all of those things. But the main thing is just for you to have an idea of how these dimensions work. So if you want to practice on your own, you can try it and just check it out. I hope
Okay,
that
sir. Thank you
answers your
very much,
question.
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, so I think we have Sunday, Salahu Sunday. You can ask your question. You're on mute now.
Okay, good evening, sir, and thank you so very much for today's class. Okay, my question is that can we have more than 2 blocks in a 3D array? Can we have like as much as 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks? That's my question, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Sonny, for that question. You can actually have 50 blocks in a 3-dimensional array. You can have 100 blocks. You can have 1,000 blocks in a 3-dimensional array. The reason I'm just restricting it to just small numbers is for explanation's sake, so things don't get a whole lot complex. You can have as many blocks as your computer memory can allow in a 3-dimensional array. I hope that is clear.
Okay, very clear, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, that's fine. So any other question? Anybody with question? Anybody with question? All right. So since we don't have any other question, we are going to okay. So Jimmy James, and Kende, this will be the last questions I will take. So James, you're on mute now. Please ask your question.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Good evening.
I have two questions, but the first one has already been asked and answered. So my second question is, can we be able to, like, like in the list, like we did before, you change the number in the index to another, giving it another value, like a particular value in the arrays, you can take it out and change it, like manipulate it, giving it another value. Maybe instead of 6, you want it to become 10. Is it possible to do that?
Thank you very much for that question. It is absolutely possible to do that. All right. It's very absolutely possible. So the same way you use indexing to get value, you can also use that index to change the value. So for instance, let's just for our two-dimensional array, like we have x2d here. All right, let's say I want to change this particular 4 here. What I'll do is that I need to get that particular index location. So it should be something like this, x2d. Then what am I going to have here? I'm going to have 0, and then I'm going to have what? 1. So if I run this, you're going to see that I'll get, this should be small letter x. I'm going to get 4. So if I want to change it, I'll just assign a new value to it. If it's 6, it will be 6 here. So I print out, if I rerun this, I'm going to get 6. You can see that I've changed the 4 now to 6, right? So the flexibility is there. You can do whatever you want to do. You can change whatever. You can change a list, like you can change, let's say, 6 and 5. You can change this entire row. You can change the entire column. You can. So the main thing is just for you to understand the indexing, to know how you can get that particular. And once you can get the index, you can change it. And okay, I think my video just paused now. Let's see. Okay. Can you see my screen? James.
No, sir.
But did you see the explanation I just gave on the screen, or like
Yes.
did it cut off immediately? Okay, so the explanation. All right, fine. So that's basically it. You can actually change your the elements in your arrays by using your index. So the same way you do it in your list is the same way you would achieve it here in your NumPy arrays. All right, is there another question before we wrap up? Okay, Kende, you have a question? All right, ask your question, please, and then we'll call it a day. Kende.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for the lecture. Yes, sir. I actually want to plead for something in particular. I messed up for the first week assignment that you gave to us. I didn't submit the link while I did the first assignment, and you gave us link to put our details, but I submitted late. But for the week 2 and week 3 assignments, I got to know that we have to unrestrict our link before we submit.
Hello, sorry to cut you short here, but I pleaded with us that we don't bring any of these things up here, right? Avenues are made available to resolve all these issues. So we don't have time on this live class to be going through all of those. I believe if we should give everybody mic to speak, like we will not leave here today. So if your question is not pertaining to the class that we have in, I believe it's best you should direct it to your class rep or tag me on the group to that particular issue, and I will definitely attend to it. Please, for the sake of time. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. We are wrapping up. We've wrapped up with today's class. So I believe we learned a lot today, and we've gotten to a newer dimension, pun intended. So we're going to we'll wrap up with NumPy in the next class and then move on to pandas, right? So things will actually get a lot more interesting from now. Trust me. So make sure that you stick with the class. Make sure that you're doing everything that we're supposed to do, and yeah, you'll definitely reap the fruit of your labor. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and do have a splendid week, and see you all next week. Thank you. Don't forget to write out those things that you learned from today's class in bullet points. I love seeing them, right? And I'll react to every one of them. All right. Thank you, and cheers.